Okay, everybody, we're going to talk about order of operations. This video is going to take a little bit longer just because there's a lot of writing involved. Um, so bear with me. Here we go. When we talk about order of operations, the acronym that we usually think of is PEMDAS. So please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. But what do these stand for? When we do order of operations, we're going to start with the first and work our way down. Our first step is parentheses. But it's not just parentheses, and we'll talk a little bit more about this in a minute. It's actually all grouping symbols. So we're simplifying things first. The second step, the E stands for exponents. Third step, multiplication. But it's not just multiplication, it's also division. And then addition and subtraction. So these are our order of operations. And we do them from the top one down to the lowest one. So if there are no parentheses, if there are no grouping symbols, then we go to exponents. If there are no exponents, we go to multiplication and division. Once we're done with multiplication and division, we go down to addition and subtraction. So let's talk about the first one again. So parentheses is actually talking about grouping symbols. So once you get parentheses, once you get into Miss Bothwell's geometry class, you'll talk about grouping symbols and how it's not PEMDAS, it's GEMDAS with a G for grouping. And this is why. We have the parentheses that we know and love, but we also have brackets. And those act like parentheses. They just look different, right? But we also have absolute value signs. Remember that absolute value signs make positive whatever's inside the absolute value sign. So if this is a -4, if x is -4, it comes out as a +4. Because absolute value is actually referring to distance, how far something is, or how far away it is on the number line. So we have parentheses, brackets, absolute values, but we also have things like fraction lines. So if I have 2 plus 4 on the top and 8 minus 3 on the bottom, this acts as a grouping symbol so that we need to do the 2 plus 4 and the 8 minus 3 before we turn it into a fraction and try and simplify that fraction. So that's why parentheses, the P for parentheses, should really be a G for grouping symbols. But for the others, let's say I have an example problem and it says 2 plus 4, but you've also got a times 3 out here, minus 10 divided by 2. Well, what the heck do you do first? Well, let's write down our acronym. And this is actually what I would do on the top of every worksheet where I need it, because that way it's right in front of me. I can just look at it. So P, parentheses. Let's do parentheses first. So that's going to be 2 plus 4. 2 plus 4 is 6. I'm still going to keep it inside of parentheses because I'm multiplying it to the 3. But then I've got minus 10 divided by 2. So what do I do next? Well, the next step is, we already did the parentheses. We don't need to do the exponents. There are no exponents. Multiplication and division happen together from left to right. That's really important to remember. And addition and subtraction happen together from left to right. They're kind of like one step. So my next step is to do my multiplication and division. So I'm actually going to erase it so that I have room. Actually, I'll erase this top step because we don't need it anymore. We'll just go back and forth, up and down and up and down. So 3 times 6 is my next step because we're going from left to right. So 3 times 6 is 18 minus, oh, but there's a division symbol. So we're going to do division next because we have 10 divided by 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. Don't do the addition and subtraction yet. We're not on that step yet. So now that we've done that, now we can do our final step. We've done our multiplication and division, and now we can do our final step of subtraction. And then 18 minus 5 is going to be 13. So that's order of operations. You do each step in order, but there's a couple of different rules to remember, like P actually stands for all grouping symbols. Like multiplication and division and addition and subtraction are done together from left to right. So whenever you need to remember these rules, come back and look at this video, and they'll remind you about how to do things.